Hello again, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr. We are here to talk to you about Kentucky's road trip to Georgia. You may catch this on the SEC Network, 6 Central on Tuesday night. Game played in the Stegeman Coliseum in Athens, Georgia. We do not have lines as we're doing this Monday morning, but according to the predictive models, Kentucky figures to be favored by a point or two. Max Barr, been looking forward to this one, I know. Georgia's got an experienced team with good guards, but guess what? So do the Cats, who come off a big win over one of the best offensive teams in the country in Kentucky in Rupp Arena last Saturday.
Yep, Kentucky riding high on that win, and then Georgia, they've been not hanging their heads, but they've been, going back to work after a rough game. So teams coming in off of two different types of finishes, and this is strength on strength, guys. This is going to be a good matchup. Kentucky's offense is the strength of their team. Georgia's defense, the strength of theirs. And then if you want to flip it and talk about weaknesses, Georgia's offense, that's their Achilles heel. And Kentucky, as we've noted before, not playing the best defense, currently 91st in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency. So we got strength on strength, weakness on weakness. I really like this matchup, guys.
Yeah, it's just one of those interesting dynamics where one team just scored 106 points, one team just scored 51 points, and yet the spread's going to be like 1 or 2 points perhaps in the favor there. But that's just – it's all about the styles. As Max just said, it's a matter of who you're playing and the different style of game you're going to get. And I think this one will look a little bit different than the one we saw on Saturday in Lexington. And it'll probably look a little bit different than the one we saw on Saturday in Oxford. So, it's kind of a fascinating setup here.
All right, let's start with keys to the game and maybe storylines you're watching. I'll give you mine. Kentucky offensively, when those guys are going, man, they are a sight to behold. You got Ortega Owe, you got Jackson Robinson. You got a lot of guys on this team, and I probably left out the best one, Kobe Brea, who was just magnificent in that win against Florida on Saturday. Kentucky can spread you out. They can bomb threes from everywhere. On the other hand, Georgia, it's a team with some old guards. It's a team that is 28th in Ken Palm right now. To me, that's the interesting side of the matchup that I see is like, how does Georgia defend Kentucky? I think, if Kentucky's really hitting its threes, it probably goes into Lexington and wins. If Georgia's able to get out on shooters, close out on guys, which is a challenge, then maybe we're looking at a different game. Max, I'll throw it to you here. What are some things that you're looking for in this matchup, maybe storylines of importance?
Yeah, I'm looking right in the backcourt for Georgia. Mr. Montgomery, Mr. Deshane Montgomery, the difference maker for the Bulldogs so far. I think he's got to have a huge game, him and LeFew, because, probably Butler on Demery, probably. And then whoever Ortega's on, they're going to be just rough and tough. LeFew and Montgomery, man, that's who I'm looking for, because you're going to have Tyron Lawrence and Demery trying to create. Can Deshane and Dakota get their shots up, get some contact drawn? If you're looking at the free throws, guys, free throws are one way that Georgia really takes advantage of the defenders. And Kentucky's done a pretty good job at defending, not fouling. But this is at Athens. What type of whistle do you get? This is a type of game where Asa Newell, if Amari or Garrison or Andrew Carr get in a little bit of foul trouble, this is a game where Georgia's front court is in position to take over a little bit. I'm going to be very interested in the aggressiveness of Deshane Montgomery. Does he kind of change the game a little bit? That's what I'm looking for right off the bat.
Yeah, there's two things here. Georgia, we said going into the Ole Miss game, what worried us was the turnovers, and it's kind of been a problem at times. And so, would they be able to handle the ball? They turned it over 15, 16 times I think in that game. The difference is that Kentucky just doesn't force a lot of turnovers, so that takes away one of those potential weaknesses for Georgia. All right, so okay, you feel a little bit better if you're Georgia. Another thing I think I would ask is, who's the best offensive team Georgia's played this season? Or should I rephrase that and ask, who are the elite offensive teams that Georgia played this season? What would you say?
Marquette.
And is there who else? You see my point? Like
Right.
that's
Ole
kind of
Miss
the
is
point.
respectable. Yeah.
Okay, St. John's is respectable too, but like Marquette, I feel like is the only truly elite offense that
Right.
Georgia has seen this season. So the defensive numbers have been great, but it's just in the context of, okay, now you're playing a big step up because Kentucky's one of the best offensive teams in the country. And sure, we've seen Kentucky go away from home in a game like the Clemson one or the Ohio State game and struggle at times to put together a great offensive performance. Scored 66 points at Clemson, 65 points in that game against Ohio State. Also beat Gonzaga in Seattle or wherever and scored 90, right? They beat who scored 77, those kind of things. So I think that's what I'm looking at here. Georgia, one of their potential issues has been turnovers. I don't think that's going to be a huge factor here. Kentucky is so good offensively that I think they are at a level that Georgia's not seen this season. So it's kind of which one of those wins out here.
Here's another storyline that we have to discuss too, and that's Asa Newell. When we were doing our freshman of the year picks on our live stream last Friday, I mean, there are a ton of freshmen. There's at least a half dozen that I think could make the claim. I think he was my pick just because he is not something else you'll see. Like a lot of the freshmen in this league that are superstars or guards and wings, you don't see a lot of freshman bigs like him, and he is a load. He can pull a double-double on you in the blink of an eye. On the other hand, you got Amari Williams, who was 2 or 3 time conference defensive player of the year at Drexel. So That's going to be something to watch. Foul trouble could be an issue there. Williams is fouling about 6 times per 40 minutes. So if he gets a second or third early, he comes off the floor. To me, that is the matchup I'm watching. Like if Georgia wins this game, it's probably going to involve Asa Newell going off and maybe getting Kentucky's guys underneath in foul trouble.
Well, before Max adds his thoughts, if Georgia wins the game and you want to bet on Georgia winning the game, you can do that at Bet Online, or you can bet on Kentucky. Guess what? They allow you to bet on either team. What a concept. Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. Earliest odds, in-game live betting. Bet Online provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. Largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC. Head to Bet Online today. Don't forget, use that promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here.
Yeah, Chris, kind of to back you up with some numbers there. Georgia's 2 best stat categories are they both rank 11th in the nation. That's their highest category in 2 different areas. They're 11th in the nation in offensive rebounding, and then they're 11th in the nation in defensive block rate. So there you go. That backs you right up there. And this is a Kentucky team that just let up 15 offensive rebounds to Florida. Florida is slightly better at offensive rebounding than Georgia, not by much at all. So that's if you're Mark Pope in practice, that is 100% an area of focus. We just let up 15 offensive rebounds. Florida rebounded 41% of their misses. If they go on the road to Georgia and they're letting Georgia rebound over 40% of their misses, just anytime you're on the road and you're given that many second chance points, letting them maybe kick it out to LeFew, kick it out to Montgomery, kick it out to any of these shooters, and help a team that kind of struggles from 3, only made 2 last game, that could be a major, major factor in this game. Georgia's ability to hit the O glass.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, Georgia's got to hit some shots too. Like that's kind of what I mean. It's a pretty simple concept here, but they've got to be able to, I think, find a good rhythm offensively, and that's where I mentioned a minute ago, like you said, Max. If you combine the 2 things together, they don't turn the ball over. If they take care of the ball here, and they get some extra opportunities on the offensive glass, and can keep shooting a high percentage because of just having those second chance shots that come from within like 5 feet, then that's going to go a long way. Because that's just what I'm most curious about, because that's one of the paths to victory, right? The other path is just shut Kentucky down, make them score 66 or whatever, 67. As I said, there were 66, 65, I think it was, Clemson and Ohio State games away from home. So find a way to force them into that. So yeah, like I think that's kind of the story here, as you said. I do not like Georgia's chances at all if they're not in double-digit offensive rebounds here in this game. I think that's the magic number. They got to get to at least 10 to have those second-chance opportunities. I'm not saying they're going to convert on all 10 of those, but you got to give yourself some extra chances because I just feel like it's going to be difficult to completely shut down Kentucky here. I just think I know it's a different arena, but Kentucky just put up 106, and that's a very confident bounce-back type performance from them. After that game, they had the previous week and a half or whatever against Ohio State. So,
let's get final thoughts on the matchup along with your pick. Max, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very tricky game if you're betting on it. Anytime there is a ranked team on the road as a favorite, it's always a little bit dangerous. You're probably going to get a very large public bet on Kentucky here. On the road, coming off the big win against a Georgia team that, just hasn't really impressed probably back to November 24th when they beat St. John's. So you're going to get a heavy public split on Kentucky here, which is always a little bit scary. But I just have a hard time finding a way for Georgia to consistently hit outside shots, even though they're probably going to get a few offensive rebound kickouts. I find it difficult for them to match up with Kentucky's offense. I'm gonna go Cats here, guys. But this is a scary one from a betting mindset, just because of how heavy I expect the public to be on the road team here. I'll go Cats though.
I feel like watching Saturday's basketball, the name of the game in the SEC is offense and shooting. And you saw that 106-100 game in Lexington. Now, look, let's not shortchange Georgia. Georgia's hit 100 points a couple of times. But offensive efficiency, Georgia 72nd in the country. That tells you that consistency maybe has been a little bit of an issue. That showed up in Oxford on Saturday. I feel like this is also a game where a point guard who has been there and done that is extremely valuable. You've got that with Lamont Butler, who's played on the biggest of stages before in his college career. The Cats have not won a true road game yet, but they did beat Gonzaga back when Gonzaga was really playing well in Seattle.
Without Butler.
The great point. I'd forgotten that. Give me the Cats in this one for that reason. Is it going to be a runaway? I'd be surprised.
All right. So you're both picking Kentucky here in this matchup between two teams that maybe the point spread is a couple points, not too much, but you guys seem convinced. Well, that's an interesting thought you have there because
he's stalling, Max.
February 11th, 2023 in Athens, Georgia 75, Kentucky 68. January 20th, 2021 in Athens, Georgia 63, Kentucky 62. That's what we call a streak the Bulldogs are on in Athens right now against the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky has not won in this building since January 7th, 2020. They won by 9 on the road as the number 14 team in the country.
With no fans?
Probably. No, that would have been before. No, that was in January of 2020. So that would have been before.
Yep. But my fault.
So I think that it's a little interesting here. If you're wondering why the spread maybe is a little bit closer than people would think, that's one of the reasons why. One of the other reasons why is what I keep telling you. Home teams are 132-3 in SEC home teams. Like, come on, are you kidding me? 135 games played this season by SEC teams at home. 132-3.
Wild.
Ridiculous is that right there. And the only 3 teams that have lost were the bottom 3 teams in our power rankings this week. Texas, LSU, South Carolina. So that's what I think is kind of fascinating here.
Fair.
I say all that to tell you that I'm picking the Cats of Kentucky. Even with all those stats in the opposite way, they've struggled in this building a little bit. This will be a little bit of a close point spread. I'm going to pick the team I think that I trust the most if it's a close game at the end. And the team I trust the most to score that extra basket is Kentucky right now. Just because I do think they found a little bit of something against Florida. I think Georgia may still be a better defensive team than Florida, but I just look at it from that standpoint. I just trust the way that, and Kentucky fans will tell you, two of the things that frustrated them about those losses that they've had at Georgia, and I remember one of those games vividly, was probably just the offensive output and the approach offensively. Yeah. It's much different under Mark Pope. We see that. There is a dedicated offensive system and game plan that is working right now, and I'm going to lean on that and pick Kentucky here. It's not going to be easy, and we did just put the Southeastern 16 kiss of death on the Cats, but I'm gonna pick the team that I just simply think has been better to this point, and pick the Cats.
Would either of you be surprised? Would either of you be surprised if the Cats don't win?
No, because it's the road in the SEC, and
yeah,
and I think
132-3.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So
me either. Okay.
And Asa Newell, I mean, he's a stud. So yeah,
gonna be a good one.
Mike White is, I think, 5-12 against Kentucky in his career, according to the numbers here. If you go back to at Florida, so that's also something that may be a little interesting.
Little angle.
We will see if Mark Pope can overcome the Southeastern 16 kiss of death. We'll be here to talk about it. Win, lose, or draw, we'll take our lumps for our victory laps, whichever applies. Best way to get it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, so you can hear everything we do on our channel. We cover baseball, basketball, football, not particularly in that order, but we cover them all with equal passion. For Max Barr, Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16 presented by BetOnline.